PRINCE2 Agile version 2, what's changed. My name's Etty and I'm part of the marketing team here at ILX. We'll just give it another minute or so because there's still a few people kind of trickling in, and then I'll be handing over to Gavin here, who is one of our expert PRINCE2 Agile trainers. So he'll be taking you through the main presentation today. So before I hand over, I've just got a couple of housekeeping bits I just want to run through with everybody, just to make sure we can keep the webinar running smoothly today. So you'll notice that you're all on mute. I believe it will force you to stay that way, but please don't try and come off of mute. This just means that we can make sure that Gavin is nice and clear and there's no sort of background noises or anything. If you do have any questions as we're going through though, there is a little question box up in the top right hand corner of your screen. If you pop those in there, we'll be doing a Q&A session at the end. So we'll answer any of the questions at that point, unless they're sort of technical questions. If you can't see us or you can't hear us, I'll be in the background and I'll kind of sort of talk you through how we can resolve those and get them sorted as we're going through. We like to say, give us a follow on social media. We're active on Instagram, Facebook and LinkedIn as at ILX Group. So you can give us a follow over on there, and then you'll be able to keep up to date with sort of any other events and webinars and things like that that we have coming up. The webinar is being recorded. You'll receive a link to this via email tomorrow, and then you can watch it back, share with colleagues, that kind of thing. That's pretty much everything. So the session today is going to last about half an hour, and then as I mentioned, we'll have 15-20 minutes or so at the end for a Q&A. So I shall hand you over to Gavin's capable hands, and he will be taking you through today.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Etty. First of all, welcome. It's a pleasure to see so many of you join us here today, and happy Friday to you, of course, as well. So I want to talk to you first of all about the agenda of what I'll be covering with you today. So it's going to be, why has PRINCE2 Agile been updated? How can PRINCE2 and Agile work together? Because a lot of people often think that they are opposing forces. I'm going to talk to you a little bit of the history about that, as to why PRINCE2 was created, why Agile was created, and actually show that they actually are not opposing forces. They actually are both serving the same purpose and work together very well. I'll talk to you about what's new in PRINCE2 Agile version 2. And also why you should consider training in PRINCE2 Agile. And as Etty says, there'll be an opportunity for questions and answers at the end. Just to introduce myself to you first of all, as I said, Etty said, my name is Gavin Treacy. I'm a senior training consultant and subject matter expert for ILX, though I'm pretty certain that senior element is to do with my age and the colour of my hair. I teach a number of subjects. I teach PRINCE2 Agile itself, version 2, you'd be glad to hear. I teach PRINCE2 on its own, which is the new version 7. Okay, I teach Agile project management, Agile business analyst, Scrum master, Scrum product owner, and also APM. I'll say this, that this year, without doubt, because of the update, PRINCE2 Agile is actually now my favorite course to teach. I really enjoy delivering this because the changes have been so significant, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. So without further ado, oh yes, before I forget, if you do want to connect with me on LinkedIn, there's a QR code there that'll take you to my profile. You're very, very welcome. It'd be nice to meet you all on LinkedIn and social media as well. So without further ado, first of all, why the change? Okay, so a little bit of the history of PRINCE2 first of all. You may or may not all know this, that PRINCE2 actually dates back to 1989. The journey of PRINCE2 actually started before then. PRINCE2 was actually created for the British government. First of all, created by a consultancy firm, and it was first of all called Prompt. Don't ask me to remember what Prompt stands for. It's project something or another. It was actually first created, a lot of people don't know this, it was actually created to actually serve projects for IT infrastructure for the British government. Up until that point, they hadn't really had any recognized project approach, waterfall being the go-to. Now, waterfall, perfectly good project approach, and I don't ever want to be sort of thought of as waterfall bashing. Lots of project approaches need waterfall, but it wasn't working for creating new IT systems and dealing with very much an unknown territory of systems. And that's where it came from. Started off as Prompt, was inherited by the British government and was called Prince, Projects in a Controlled Environment. There's never been a Prince 1, by the way. It just went from Prince to Prince 2. And the British government, because of the popularity of it, started promoting it. And that's why we now have the subject and qualification of PRINCE2. Over 1 million certified project management professionals, and it is without doubt probably the world's most recognized and globally recognized project approach. One of the things PRINCE2 gives us is what's called project management maturity. That means that an organization has an approach where people speak the same language. People are talking about a subject matter, and it's almost like there's a glossary that people can recognize. Without that, you can end up with the confusion sometimes. One person is saying the phrase PID, project initiation documentation. Somebody else is talking about PMP, the project management plan. One person is talking about project charter, someone else is talking about business case. And effectively, they're talking about the same thing, but using a recognized approach is able to align people to a common framework and therefore a common language. 88% of project professionals have said that PRINCE2 has helped them in their career. So again, just talking a little bit more about that history. So PRINCE2, as I said, was created for the IT industry. A lot of people think it is waterfall. It isn't. It's not a waterfall project approach. It was actually always created as a flexible project management approach. I'll say this, in my opinion, over PRINCE2 editions 5 and 6, 5th edition and 6th edition, it lost its way a little bit. It started to be seen as still an excellent project approach, but was becoming very, very much focused on almost the governance too much and not enough about the people element. And as we know, with the best project manager in the world, the best project board, we can't run a successful project without the people involved. And that's what PRINCE2 version 7 gave us. It placed a significant emphasis on the aspects of people and leadership. For me, that shift towards people and leadership was a much, much welcome change. And that actually, I really started enjoying PRINCE2, delivering it more than I had done on the 5th and 6th. Don't get me wrong, I always enjoyed delivering PRINCE2, but PRINCE2 7th edition has been a much, much more enjoyable delivery for me. So there was time for an update to PRINCE2 Agile. Because PRINCE2 Agile is based on the PRINCE2 approach, we get the project approach from PRINCE2, but the Agile ways of working have always been the business as usual. So when we use Agile in a PRINCE2 project, the Agile is not managing the project. Agile is actually dealing with the delivery, the product delivery, and helping us deal with things such as unknowns, where we require that iterative approach. When you think of iterative, you can think of the phrase fail fast and learn quickly. We're delivering, or we're trying to produce something we haven't produced before. So because PRINCE2 itself was updated, that meant there was a need to change PRINCE2 Agile as well. Okay, so talk more about why the change. So PRINCE2 Agile itself was first launched in 2015, and this release of the PRINCE2 7th edition was an ideal opportunity to now align PRINCE2 to the PRINCE2 7th edition ways of working, particularly the emphasis on people and leadership. Bringing the two together, when I think of PRINCE2 and Agile, and excuse this might seem like a strange analogy, I think of PRINCE2 as being somebody dressed in a Savile Row suit, very smart, very organized. And then Agile is somebody wearing, think of comfortable, easy to move around in American trainers like Nike or Adidas. Other brands are available. And if you bring the two together, you think they won't work. A smart Savile Row suit and a pair of trainers, well, they do actually work together very, very well. PRINCE2 brings us the project management framework, very much having an organized process to follow, the 7 practices, the 7 principles, and then you bring Agile in, and it really helps us focus on the product delivery in a different way. So now we can look at how PRINCE2 works briefly. I'm not going to give you here a full PRINCE2 lesson. Do not worry, there's not going to be an exam that you need to take at the end of this. Okay, so an introduction to PRINCE2. So PRINCE2 consists of 7 practices, okay, 7 principles, and 7 processes. And it's those 3 sevens that give us a project framework to actually be able to work to and adhere to. Now, don't think of PRINCE2 as being this, you follow the textbook when you're delivering a PRINCE2 project approach. What that gives you is a global best practice, but you still need to tailor it to suit your organization. Okay, that's the point of the PRINCE2 Foundation and Practitioner exams, to learn how to do that. The other element of PRINCE2 here is to talk about project context. Every single project is different. Therefore, every single project needs tailoring. And it's the context that helps us understand the bigger picture of that project. Who are we working with? Who are we building this for? Why are we doing this? And that then helps by understanding the bigger picture. We're able to better tailor each of the practices, processes, and principles to suit that particular project. And now, of course, which was brought in the last edition, the last update of PRINCE2, we have the people element. As it says at the bottom, projects need people. An understanding of the needs, capabilities, and motivation of the people involved is critical. Why is that? Well, how often is it that when people working on projects, they're either being pulled away from their day job or often having to do both? We know that projects can be disruptive in some elements. We need to make sure the people working in this project are comfortable with the project environment, comfortable working together, and very importantly, motivated. I always say in my courses that one question every project manager should learn is, what do you think? Because a project manager is very, very rarely a subject matter expert, and you have to rely on the expertise of those people building the solution. That's what, and this very welcome change that PRINCE2 brought in with the version 7, the 7th edition. Okay, looking at the next section. What Agile brings to PRINCE2. This. Agile, just like PRINCE2, was actually created as an alternative to Waterfall. In the UK, prompts and prints were being created through the 80s and 90s. In America, Agile was being created, but it wasn't first called Agile. There was lots of different Agile ways of working: rapid application development, dynamic systems development method. One you've probably all heard of course, is Scrum. These were all, and Kanban, by the way, many others: Kanban, Kaizen, Lean, feature-driven development, behavior-driven development. I won't give you the full list. These were being created through the 1990s as alternatives to Agile ways of working to be able to build federal mainframe systems, IT systems, front and back end, because Waterfall wasn't working. So while we had over here in the UK prompts and prints being created, in America, Agile was being born throughout the 80s and 90s through that first tech revolution. And they created in 2001 something called the Agile Manifesto. It was in 2001 that the phrase Agile was first coined and born. Nobody owns Agile, by the way. This is very important to know. Nobody owns Agile. It is almost, to use the phrase, open source. However, if you do want to become qualified in an area of Agile, that's where you actually learn through certification, and that's the only fee that's involved. But learning about Agile is absolutely free for everybody. What we do with our courses is actually show you how to combine it with recognized approaches such as PRINCE2. I won't read out the Agile Manifesto to you, but I will tell you that the way it works is there is value in the items on the right. So effectively, everything on the left is regarded as Agile. Everything on the right is regarded as Waterfall. Excuse my writing, it's not easy writing on the screen with a stylus. And this was created in Agile in 2001. Now you'll notice it says working software. This has always been one of the slight issues with Agile, that people think it's only for the IT industry. It isn't. In fact, now we actually look at the Agile Manifesto and the change has been made to now say working solutions over working software. PRINCE2 has never been associated, or certainly for a long time, has not been associated with the IT sector, but that's where it was born from. We now see PRINCE2 as a project framework and methodology that can be used across any space. It's not just IT. And that's why PRINCE2 and Agile can work together. They both historically come from the same background to satisfy the same need of having a flexible approach to both project management and also product management and delivery. So what else does Agile bring? A big focus on time and cost control while maintaining quality. I will put this on here. You probably may have heard of this before, known as the iron triangle: time, cost, and quality. And looking to fix the three of them. Okay, now a big part of doing this is using an approach called Moscow. Some of you may know about Moscow. I'm not going to teach Moscow right now because that's something that's actually included in the course. But it's that allows a project to be able to maintain achieving its scope of time, cost, and quality. And this is why PRINCE2 Agile, I believe, is becoming so popular. Certainly Agile ways of working are, because this is now focusing on projects being less prone to project time and budget overruns. And of course, we know when we reach the end of a project and we know that the project is in some difficulty, that can often put a lot of pressure on quality. We tend to suffer that quality when a product goes live and it's still got lots of bugs or errors or snags or fixes. And that's not just in the IT industry, that's in any industry. So it's very much about making sure that everybody in the project fully understands what our project objectives are and making sure that everybody is aligned to the same objectives. If you think of this, who's heard of Bruce Tuckman? Forming, storming, norming, performing. So for Bruce Tuckman's forming, storming, norming, performing to work, you need two things: that people are aligned to clear objectives and have an aligned way of working. That's what PRINCE2 Agile brings us, helping us to create a team that's performing. What that means is that you have a team that's working with the minimum amount of supervision. That's something I feel that every project manager should be looking to achieve, not having to micromanage through people to the project, which is incredibly time consuming and also often an unpleasant experience for people. It gives us an enhanced responsiveness to change. Okay, well, PRINCE2 does actually welcome and manage change. But the difference with Agile is that Agile uses the phrase, it embraces change. So again, we want to be able to fix and manage time and cost within the best of our abilities and maintain quality, but at the same time welcome change. The marriage of PRINCE2 and Agile together is able to manage that and make sure that the solution is still in line with achieving the business needs, the business case benefits, the objectives of the project. It's very adaptable. It scales very, very nicely. It can work with one team or it can work with multiple teams. You don't have to use a Scrum approach as delivery teams, but it can certainly be easily incorporated into that approach if need be. So you don't have to use Scrum teams. You could be using just what's called Agile delivery teams. So again, that's why it's so I'm never going to say easy to tailor because projects aren't easy, but it makes it easier to tailor that project. As I've mentioned before, and I am a big fan of Agile, one of the biggest reasons I'm a fan of Agile, because it is people focused. It's focused on time, cost, and quality. And to do that, you have to be able to focus on the people element within the project. Okay. If a project is successful, is it purely down to the work of the project manager and the board? Well, no, certainly a lot of credit goes there, but a lot of the credit will go to the people who've actually built the solution. And it's very focused on collaborative ways of working and creating a healthy project environment that also includes psychological safety. In a project, no one should ever be fearful of raising that there's a problem for fear of consequence. My statement in a project is it's a project. There will be issues. We know that. There is no good news or bad news in a project. There is just news. And Agile promotes the sense of making sure that there's transparency around progress, including what's working well and what isn't working well. And that refers to both the product we're creating, but also our way of working. Iterative development when creating those products, which is the fail fast, learn quickly. The whole point of that is to create a product that works and not just the first thing we come up with. That iterative development also applies to the project environment as well. When talking about just Scrum is a very good example. There's a phrase that goes along with Scrum, which is that creating a Scrum team actually isn't too difficult. you can give somebody the title of product owner, scrum master and development team. What takes time is mastering it. You won't get it right first time. You have to constantly revisit it. This is why Agile is keen on using, and this is something that Agile brings to PRINCE2, retrospectives. A great opportunity for a team to be able to constantly keep aligning itself around its way of working. Okay, let's have a look at the next content. Next content takes us to, well, what's new? So what PRINCE2 Agile version 2 is bringing us is, well, first of all, the core PRINCE2 project management principles, they remain the same. The 7 principles, the 7 practices, and the 7 processes. Nothing is taken away from them. So that's what gives us our project management maturity. So it's still very much a process-driven approach. And the idea of a process-driven approach, it gives us a path, a common path that everybody can follow in the project, knowing how we're going to get from that full A to B, but still breaking the project up into short planning horizons, because those planning horizons, which you probably know as being stage boundaries, some people might call them stage gates. We can also use the Agile term increments, but by breaking a project up into these stages, go-no-goes is another term, sorry, you might know, breaking them up into stages, the idea of that is to reduce the impact of risk of what could go wrong within the project. And it's that blend of the two, of maintaining the structured governance of PRINCE2, but the responsiveness of Agile ways of working. Your increments, your stages should have stayed. Stages can now become increments. And within the increment, you can, if you wish, use sprints in the Scrum team or time boxes in an Agile team. But those short horizons allow us to regularly review the product and regularly review our way of working. This all leads to an increase in project success. When we talk about time boxes and sprints, there's quite a simple rule in Agile. When I time box and sprint, by the way, they are effectively the same thing. Scrum just likes to call them sprints. But if your time box or sprint achieves time, cost, and quality, your increment achieves time, cost, and quality. That means your stage achieves time, cost, and quality. If each of your stages achieve time, cost, and quality, so does your project. But what it also allows us to do is achieve early warning indicators that something is going right with the project, but also something isn't going right. In Agile, so let me rephrase that, in PRINCE2, you would usually get this in the form of checkpoint reports going from delivery team to project manager, highlight reports from project manager to project board. The difference is here that bringing in Agile and using the concept of daily stand-ups or daily scrums and transparency of information radiators allows everyone in the project to understand that progress on a more frequent basis, effectively daily. So we don't wait to the end of a week, the end of a fortnight, the end of a month, or the end of a quarter to review and find out how we're doing. We know constantly through the project. And that allows us to give confidence to stakeholders that the project is performing well, or if something isn't working, they need to be able to, in that case, change it. Okay? Because learn from experience is one of the important principles. Learn from experience is the basis of what's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing again and again and expecting a different result. Here, we will recognize early in the project that something is or isn't working. So what's improved? For me, all of it. I really think that. I genuinely think that the way Agile has been brought in, it's become much, much more effective. It's more collaborative. It's more people focused. PRINCE2 itself does talk about collaboration, and PRINCE2 does make some reference to Agile ways of working. Now this PRINCE2 Agile has a much more significant or more focus on the blend of bringing the two together. So the project environment now is going to be a lot more focused on people, subject matter experts, the delivery teams. The language is clearer. It's much easier now to be able to picture and understand how could we bring Agile into our project environment. Now, it's important to know that the textbook, as I say, in the course, it's around a global best practice. It's not the way. It's not this is the way to do it, but it's the foundation of thinking. You then have to be able to tailor that to suit your own organization. One of the joys of Agile is there is no one way of bringing Agile in and utilizing an organization. You try what works first, and if that doesn't work, you try something else until eventually you will actually find a way of working, a methodology and a culture that works in your organization. And that word culture is incredibly important in Agile. That's what it brings. From a change perspective, because it now being much more focused on people within the project, and therefore the people are also going to use your product that the project creates, Agile definitely helps with dealing with that change and change resistance that we know we can experience with projects. Thinking about frequent delivery enables us to deliver incrementally and get earlier feedback. That's what Agile will bring to your project. It also is better alignment, because version 7, I think, is incredibly welcoming to the Agile way of working, more so than the 5th or 6th edition were. This is now actually showing much clearer how the two both come from the same origin, the same background. It's almost like they have the same DNA, and that's just been forgotten over time. But now we're actually showing how the two of them come from that same background and how well they work together as flexible approaches. It's now bringing in the Agile ways of working, including not just based on Scrum, but it will also talk about Scrum, Kanban, and it doesn't say that Scrum has to be the way. There are different ways of using Agile, but it will actually use common events or ceremonies or techniques or practices, which are all effective the same thing, to be able to find the right way of working and focus on that product delivery. So retrospectives do not have to be used just in Scrum. They can be used in time boxes. They can be used within the stage. And actually, PRINCE2 Agile shows us the various ways that that can actually be achieved. Definitely got a refined length and structure. It's definitely a lot more comprehensive than before, and now a much more focus on Agile than we saw in the previous version. Much more refined. And the focus areas. It's very much now about the phrase Agile mindset. That's where the culture comes from. Okay, I'm going to talk in a moment about something called being Agile and doing Agile to refer to that a little bit more. But now there's more comprehensive approach to the different Agile ways of working that can be incorporated into PRINCE2. So a little bit more else, what else is new? More focus and deeper focus on how to actually integrate Agile into your organization. Okay, remember, by the way, Agile doesn't have to end when the project ends. That mindset can carry on into your operational and business as usual ways of working. A big focus on collaboration, and Moscow always makes a good example of this, but how we can empower delivery teams to make decisions about detail. And that is how we embrace change, but still maintain control of the project product, the main output, and therefore still maintain the project viability and achieving the business case. A project is a dynamic world. Agile was designed and created to work in the Agile world. PRINCE2 gives it the structure. Agile allows the agility to work in that dynamic way. Agile leadership is a new focus area. Much more focused that it's about leadership. There's a phrase again in Agile, which is Agile teams are happy to be led and coached and not so comfortable being managed. More closely managed, should I say. We know that managing people too closely, if we're not careful, can actually waste time, waste effort, and create an uncomfortable environment to work in. And because a project often requires innovation and creativity, not empowering people can actually remove that innovation and creativity or make it less likely to happen. A greater emphasis on how to manage the project success and how to track it through the project more closely. This fits in very nicely with one of the PRINCE2 practices called progress. PRINCE2 has its way of tracking progress. Agile will bring a new culture and a new mindset on how to do that. And being Agile and doing Agile. I, for me, whenever I hit this in part of the course, I always think the same thing. I think they've nailed this completely, the people at PeopleCert. I think they've got this just right. It's all very well doing Agile, but are we being Agile? I won't go into this now because we've not got enough time. If you ever want to know more about this, have a look at something called Cargo Cult. Also from that is something called John Frum. It's an interesting read, and that talks about where people believe they are doing Agile, but can't understand why they're not getting the results, because they're not being Agile. It's about that culture, it's that mindset. And that, by the way, is not an overnight progress. It takes times. Many public sector organizations, departments within the UK are going through huge digital transformation programs. I've had the pleasure of working on a number of them, and it's been a joy to watch these public sector organizations become agile in their ways of working. It hasn't taken months. In fact, it hasn't taken weeks or months. In some cases, it takes years to get there, but it's worth it. And you can see the improvement over that time as well. If you're using, if you've got a smartphone, you've got the NHS app that was built using agile techniques, but it's not entirely agile because it's public sector. That governance is still needed, isn't it? Yeah. But you can see that that was actually built using agile product delivery. It's a great example of a hybrid approach being used. Okay. So why should you certify in PRINCE2 Agile version 2? Just because I said so? Yeah, maybe. Okay. No, you need to know a little bit more than that. Okay. You can't go to your learning and development. Can you sign this off, please? Because Gavin said so. You can try. The benefits to you as a professional. It's about that agile mindset and adoption and that leadership buy-in. This is what's going to create culture change in your approach to projects. Remember, time, cost, and quality becoming fixed. Wouldn't you love to achieve that in all of your projects? Okay. PRINCE2 Agile isn't the answer, but it's the beginning of finding that way in working in your project to now focus on projects, not constantly requiring additional time and additional money or delivering something that's potentially not fit for purpose or still needs further work. It gives us, because the two of them are dynamic, flexible approaches. And again, a lot of people are always surprised to hear that about PRINCE2. PRINCE2 is a very flexible approach, but it does have its governance and it needs to have some form of control over change. The two of them blend together very well. It's the best of both worlds. It is, as I said earlier on, it is the smart Savile Row suit and a pair of athletic trainers. The two work together very well. Without doubt, it improves communication. I think most people will probably be aware of this. What's one of the biggest major causes of projects not being successful? It's communication. Okay, poor communication can often lead to project failures, projects falling behind, products not being fit for purpose. We end up with so many problems in projects purely because of just communication, teamwork, and collaboration not being good enough. Agile will help that, but both between the agile and the non-agile teams. Talk about PRINCE2. It will talk about how PRINCE2 works. It will talk about how the 7 processes, the 7 practices and principle works, and how to blend the two together. Again, giving you the best of both worlds. You would earn a globally established and recognized certification. And without doubt, we do know that PRINCE2 by its very name is wanted and recognized. But there's a huge demand out there for project managers also to carry an agile qualification. We've got many people out there doing PRINCE2 and another agile qualification. You've got both of them rolled into one here. Okay. Talk in a moment about the qualifications, more detail in a second. And it will help with job opportunities. It will help with career opportunities. And there is a huge demand, as I say, for people who have got that agile qualification or agile understanding out there at the moment. As I mentioned, numerous public sector projects are going through digital transformation and they are using agile approaches and techniques and are looking for project managers, and not just project managers, but business analysts and change managers who have that understanding of agile ways of working. It works incredibly well with other approaches such as Scrum, Kanban, for example, and Lean. And it's flexible enough. It's no longer just about software. It's no longer just about agile solutions. You can use it in many different organizations. The first time I ever actually used an agile approach was back in the year, I'm not going to say it, but I actually first used it for a marketing campaign to launch a new product. And that new product had to be launched by a certain point. The reason is this is just before the internet. So give you an idea of how long ago, when we still actually used glossy magazines for our marketing. And I couldn't go to the magazine company and say, can you possibly delay publication for a couple of weeks because I'm not ready? They're just going to laugh at me and give the space to someone else. And it was a right-hand glossy, which is always the prime location. We used Agile to make sure we achieved time, cost, and quality, and it worked. And I've been a big fan ever since. Okay, what about your organization? How does it benefit your organization? Without doubt, Agile does help projects be more successful. It's why it's becoming so popular across so many different organizations. It will help with the easy adoption and going through the change process and changing the culture of your organization. It delivers that common language. And I've seen this time and time again, that people find good behaviors, good practices from their projects in using Agile, and these carry on into the business as usual. They get, daily stand-ups, daily scrums do not have to just be for projects. Any team can use them in their business as usual. Those retrospectives that to stop and pause and reflect, they can be used outside of projects. Think about any team you have and you want them to work together as a stable team who are motivated. That doesn't have to be just projects. It can also be in the business as usual. How would that make team members feel that once a month, even for an hour and a half, the team is able to stop, reflect, and talk openly about what's working well, that you carry on doing what's not working well, that you change as a team. You're having team members feeling valued, feeling that somebody's listening to them and empowered, and that psychological safety. It's about that collaboration between teams. Say Bruce Tutman, forming, storming, norming, performing. If you have a look at that, I'm sure a lot of you are probably familiar with that. And you can always contact me on LinkedIn if you want me to send you a bit more information about that. But you want to create a stable team that performs and can work with a minimum amount of supervision. Agile brings stakeholder confidence. We're able to give them frequent good communication about the progress of the project. We can still have the governance, the formal reports. Agile absolutely respects the need for those. People think Agile doesn't plan, it doesn't write anything down. It does, it just does it a slightly different way. It focuses both on the governance of the project, but also having good collaboration and frequent communication. That enables stakeholders to know on a regular basis about the progress of the project. Encourages incremental delivery. That's about delivering something of value frequently. That doesn't mean deliver something of poor quality, by the way, because we want to be able to maintain and fix quality, but it's delivering something early in the project as opposed to waiting to the very, very end. And by delivering frequently, we'll get quick feedback about we're doing the right or wrong thing, but also in some cases, you may be able to get sight of benefits. And any change manager will tell you that trying to actually do the big bang change is actually one of the more difficult to do. It can cause a lot of shock to the system for a lot of organizations. Delivering change more gradually gives the opportunity for frequent buy-in, frequent feedback, and that gradual change over a period of time. That allows us to see the return on investment, the project viability through the project, as opposed to waiting to the end of the project and post-project. It means we can embrace change, the opportunity to address when we have different internal or external factors that impact on the project, and allows us to pivot. And that can include the feedback that we're perhaps not delivering the right thing, or something else has changed and the need to quickly change direction. It's all ready to use. And understanding that history of where Agile, PRINCE2 comes from, where Agile comes from, the two of them are actually with the same DNA. They're perfectly able to dovetail and work together. So moving on to the next section, the training and certification. So there are a number of ways to be able to study with us. We do run e-learning, and that allows you to study at your own pace and your own time. Okay. Very, very aware and understand that for a lot of people, juggling learning, career, and family at the same time can be quite challenging. E-learning for some people can be a great opportunity to do so. We run virtual classes. These are run via either Teams or Zoom. Gives you an opportunity to join a course that in some cases you can do the course over. A lot of these courses tend to run over 5 days, but they are actually 2 courses in one. What some people do is take the whole week to attend the course. Some people will just do initially just one half of the course for the foundation certification and pick up on the practitioner later on. Okay. With the PRINCE2 Agile, by the way, when it comes to your exam, there are opportunities to take the exam in the classroom, but they're not as common anymore. The most frequent way to do this, and I'll talk more about the exam in a second, is to book it at a time and a place to suit you. That system, I'll say, is almost 24/7, 365 days of the year. If you want to take an exam at 3 o'clock in the morning, you can do. Just don't call me before you do your exam, because I'll be fast asleep. So we can do live virtual classrooms delivered by somebody such as myself or one of our other very competent and very experienced trainers. And we can do classroom courses as well. So we're still, because of COVID, we know this has dropped off a little bit, but now the demand for classroom courses, physical classroom courses, is beginning to return, and we have various locations throughout the UK. You can also do a blend of the two, which is blending one of the classroom courses with e-learning as well. Talk to you a little bit more about the exam format. So the foundation, here you go. 40 multiple choice questions. They are multiple choice, by the way. There's no negative marking. It's 60 minutes, which is plenty of time, and it's a 60% pass mark. So you get your result there and then when you take your exam. So you'll take your exam, you book it for a time and a place to suit you. You submit your exam within the time frame. Within about 30 seconds, you'll have a notification telling you that you passed the exam. It is closed book. Okay, so you can't have any notes to refer to. You can't have the official textbook with you. To talk next about the practitioner exam. Now, people get a bit nervous about practitioner. Can I just say this? If you can pass foundation, you can pass practitioner. The knowledge required for the two is incredibly similar. Though I will say a lot of the practitioner does have some technique, but that's why you do a classroom course, either a virtual or physical classroom course, so that we can help you with that technique and get used to how to approach the questions. There's no negative marking in either, by the way. The practitioner exam is 50 multiple choice questions. You've got 150 minutes, plenty of time. Again, 60% pass mark. But this time it's open book. That means you can have your official PRINCE2 Agile textbook with you. That can either be the physical book or you can have the online version, the e-textbook. With either of them, you can make notes in the textbook. So in your physical textbook, for example, you can write in that textbook, you can make notes in there, you can highlight things, you can tab the pages and put the name of that chapter on there. Okay. You can put really almost anything you want in there. What you can't do is insert anything into the textbook. You can write in that textbook, I heart Harry, if you want to. And just for the record, that's Maguire, not Styles. Okay, right. To summarize. Okay. PRINCE2 Agile is going to enable organizations to start leveraging and bringing in agile ways of working. And for me, it's not just bringing agile in, it's about being agile and not just doing agile. If you use agile in your projects, I will almost guarantee you'll find it actually seeping, cross-fertilization is the term, or cross-pollination into other areas of the business over time. The refinements and additions make it much easier to apply and actually much more effective in the way that agile now works in your project organization, your projects. It's very much about projects finishing within scope. It's very much about achieving that time, cost, and quality. Okay, whoops. Time, cost, and quality. The reason I put B is because if you achieve all of those, you are more likely to achieve your project benefits. Okay. And I also think that the exam itself, the way the exam is now produced, I actually think is it going to challenge, by the way? Will the exams challenge? Yeah, they will. Okay. Exams should stretch. In fact, learning should stretch and challenge. Otherwise, what's the point? The exams will stretch and challenge. Are they doable? Definitely, definitely. That's what we as trainers are there to help you with. Okay, but it's still now, I think the actual learning experience of understanding how PRINCE2 and PRINCE2 Agile work together has definitely been enhanced and is a more enjoyable journey. Okay, thank you for listening. It's been appreciated that you spent the time here today. I'm going to hand you over to Etty now, who just wants to see if you have any questions that we can pick up for you, and then also talk to you about getting some thoughts and feedback from you yourselves. Etty.
Thanks, Gavin. Yeah, so feel free to please start sending in your questions. If you do have any about the presentation, we're quite happy to run through those in a minute. We do have one question that has come through, which I will ask Gavin now. So this is regarding if you would recommend people starting with PRINCE2 Agile Foundation, or if it would be of an advantage for them to take PRINCE2 Foundation first before moving into PRINCE2 Agile.
I think that's a very good question. I think that's a very good question. Thank you, Pia. I think that really depends on how much your organization is embedding PRINCE2 ways of working. If PRINCE2 is the go-to method or one of the go-to methods, and people are required to be very much a PRINCE2 subject matter expert, I think it can be a good idea to get to know PRINCE2 on its own, first of all. However, I want to think about real world. What I'm very aware of is that when it comes to learning, it's about juggling time, and I'd say in some cases also budget. If it's not a requirement for you to be a PRINCE2 subject matter expert at outset, but it does teach a lot about PRINCE2. But you have to remember, of course, is that this is going to be some PRINCE2 and give you an excellent foundation in PRINCE2 when combined with the Agile course, whereas doing just the PRINCE2 course will focus only really on the PRINCE2 aspects. Yeah, okay. It's a difficult one to answer, Peter. I think really it comes down to time. Okay, and also any budget constraints that you have as well.
Great, thanks, Gavin. The next question is regarding whether you need to buy foundation and practitioner separately, or if you could do them together.
No, you can do them separately, but to be able to take practitioner, you need to meet the prerequisite of having achieved foundation. So you can do foundation on its own. This is I think this is really, again, around people's time availability, but it's not unusual for somebody to join just the foundation element of a course and then take a break and then come back to another course later on and join just the practitioner. So the foundation element would run over Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then the practitioner Thursday, Friday. So it's not unusual that next week I will have somebody who'll join a PRINCE2 Agile course for the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then we'll see them again at the end of November for the Thursday and Friday where they do the practitioner. Okay, I think that's a personal preference about how people want to approach it.
Yeah, the option is there for you to do either.
Definitely. It's flexible, as is the project approach. Did you see what I did there?
Exactly, it's ideal. The next question is from Sidra, and it says, if your company is working with a hybrid approach, are you best to do PRINCE2 or PRINCE2 Agile?
I think, hi Sidra, thanks very much for your question. It really depends on what is your hybrid approach. Is your hybrid PRINCE2 and Agile, or is it another approach such as waterfall and Agile? I think we'd need to know what is the project approach that you're using. So hybrid could be waterfall, it could be PRINCE2. If you're able just to expand in the chat and a little bit for me, that Sidra, while I pick up another question, and I'll come back to you in a moment. Just tell me what the actual project approach is that you're using at the moment. And I'll come back to your question in a second. Thanks, Sidra.
Great. Next question from Tracy is the focus for the textbook more from the Agile side of things or the PRINCE2 book?
Okay, thanks, Tracy. Nice to meet you. When you say the Agile book, there are many Agile books. One of the ones you might be referring to is something called Agile Project Management. We actually don't use the Agile Project Management approach in a PRINCE2 Agile project because PRINCE2 manages the project, and the Agile approaches are, none of them are project management approaches. They're all business as usual. There's a significant focus on Agile ways of working around transparency, collaboration, empowerment, the use of Moscow, for example. And that does have a lot of similarities with the Agile PM ways of working. Agile PM coming from Dynamic Systems Development Method, which was introduced in the 90s and became Agile PM later on. There's a lot of similarities between the two, but the focus on here is to how to use those Agile approaches in a PRINCE2 environment. Okay, so it has got a lot of focus on PRINCE2, but a significant focus on agile ways of working and how to utilize them. Whenever I think of using agile in a project, I always think of agile like a rack of herbs and spices that you're going to put in cooking. You might just want to sprinkle, for example, of collaborative practices. You might want a really big dollop of Scrum, for example, which brings almost everything you need. So, and I think that's the big thing it teaches us about how much or where we need to put it in. It's not if you're using Agile, it's how much and where, and excuse me, if you're using Agile, how much and where you want to apply it. So it gives us almost a toolkit that we can then use and tailor with our own organization. Yeah, thanks, Tracy.
Great, thanks, Gavin. Sid just sent in a follow-up. So they're not currently using a specific method, but they want to try and combine that flexibility and the governance that you've mentioned. Which one would you recommend?
PRINCE2 Agile, spot on. If you, sorry, I was so keen to answer. I spoke over you. Apologies.
No, you go for it.
I'd say there, if you don't have a recognized approach, then you want to create that project maturity, that common language. PRINCE2 Agile is a fantastic starting place to do that. Yeah, I think the two of those is the first place to go to, because it will give you that project maturity and that common language that people can learn to be able to speak. Yeah, okay.
Great. Next question from Carrie says, if no one owns Agile, who defines the certification?
Yeah, depends which part of Agile it is. So we think about Scrum, for example. The creators of Scrum, get that right, a bit of a creators of Scrum, okay, Jeff Sutherland and Ken Schwaber, they were always very, very keen that nobody actually owns it. They always wanted it to be open source. What actually happens is, for different elements of Agile, it's that element you want to learn, and if you want to be certified in it, an organization out there will have created a framework of learning. So for example, PRINCE2, which is governed by, or I'm going to say it's now actually owned by people, so they're the awarding body. They create the syllabus, they create the learning process, and they create the exam process. When it comes to Scrum, okay, lots of different organizations. There are a couple of Scrum Alliance or Scrum Org. That's Sutherland and Schwaber, okay, but you can actually learn about it for free. But if you want to be certified, the awarding body will have created a framework for you to follow, that created a syllabus that matches the learning, and that will match the qualification. What you've got then is objective testing against that syllabus and framework. Okay, so Agile being brought into PRINCE2, that Agile is almost open source, but it's been confined in or created inside a confined space that makes it teachable and easy to learn. Good question, that. Thank you, Carrie.
Yeah. That's all the questions we've had for now. If anyone does have any more, please do pop them in the box. We have got a few more minutes. While we're waiting to see if any come through, we do also have a Mentimeter survey that we were just wanting to ask people to fill in. If you guys wouldn't mind doing that, I think Gavin has a QR code that he'll be able to show us.
Yes, I certainly do. There you go.
Brilliant. So yeah, if you guys wouldn't mind scanning that and just giving us your thoughts, we just want to get an idea of kind of if you've enjoyed the session, if you're interested in learning more about PRINCE2 Agile, and if you're considering training as well. So if you wouldn't mind scanning that and just popping your thoughts in there. And as I say, if you do have any questions, we have got a couple more minutes, so please do feel free to pop those in the box. Yeah, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Oh, a few people have started filling in the Menti, which is great. So if you are interested in PRINCE2 Agile, as Gavin has mentioned, you can start training now on our website. You can find out more about that over there, or if you do have a dedicated relationship manager for your organisation, please obviously feel free to reach out to them and they'll be able to provide more details. I think that is everything. We've not had any more questions come through, so that is us done for today. Let me just quickly pop up the results from the Mentimeter just for everyone to see. So looks like taken a little bit of time. But yeah, it looks like a lot of you are interested in learning more about PRINCE2 Agile, which is great. Hopefully this has given you a bit of an overview. But yeah, we have loads more information over on our website, so please do feel free to do that. We also have another webinar coming up in a couple of weeks' time about PRINCE2 Agile from a more sort of corporate organizational perspective. So feel free to go over to our website and you can register for that as well, which will give you a bit more information. Thank you very much everyone for joining us. We hope you've enjoyed the session. Thanks very much, Gavin. I found it very insightful. So yeah, we shall see you all soon. Hope you have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you for your time, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Bye.